Hello and welcome to In the Picture, your source for movie review, discussion, and recommendation. My name is Preston Fosbeck, and joining me today are awesome Shane Jones.
Hello and hello. I'm going to be saying hello for Miles, who is currently busy right now.
And Miles Cardan. He's busy, but he'll be here in a few moments.
So, yeah, I hope.
Today, we have a very special episode in which we are going to be reviewing Isle of Dogs, the new Wes Anderson film, and Ready Player One, one of the strangest Easter films I've ever seen, about an egg hunt or something. I don't know. Let's get going here. Wes Anderson has directed 8 feature films before Isle of Dogs. This is his 9th feature. It's stop motion. Believe it's his second stop motion film, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That's correct.
Second stop motion film. Miles, what do you think about that?
Wait. You actually started without me, didn't you?
And
dude. Nah.
it stars Bryan Cranston. IMDb sums it up this way. Set in Japan, Isle of Dogs follows a boy's odyssey in search of his lost dog. What are our initial thoughts on this movie, boys? Miles?
Oh, hello. Isle of Dogs, hey? I really like this movie. I'm a longtime fan of Wes Anderson. I've seen everything that he's done, and I think he's at the top of his game here. I don't know where to go from there without getting more into too much detail, but as a fan of Wes Anderson, I loved everything I saw.
Shane, thoughts on Isle of Dogs?
First of all, I want to say that I give instant respect to anybody who makes a feature-length stop-motion movie, no matter how bad the movie is. But this is a good one, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Had me going there for a moment. I too thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Everything about this movie I thought was fantastic. The script is probably one of my favorite scripts of the year so far, certainly, and probably last year too. Even just a great film. Tons of humor, great cast, fantastic visuals, all around great film. So there aren't a lot of stop motion films that are made these days. What's like the last stop motion film we can remember besides Isle of Dogs?
They're,
like Coraline?
Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah, Leica Studios, which is actually local to the Portland metro area.
Right.
They do a lot of stop motion, but they supplement it or enhance it with a lot of CGI. Like if you ever watched some of the behind the scenes with Kubo, like there's a lot of computer effects that went into it as well. So Isle of Dogs is really cool because as far as I could tell, there wasn't any computer animation going on. It was just pure, like everything captured in camera. As far as I could be wrong.
Yeah, it seemed that way to me for sure as well.
And just knowing how much work goes into a single shot. I mean, because for every single second that you see on screen, I mean, I don't know how many movements they're making, but every single minute movement is like being done by hand. So like, gonna move this a little bit here, stop, take a picture, move a little bit here, stop, take a picture, and it's like that's how they make the entire film.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with stop motion, go do a YouTube search and figure out how it works, because it's pretty crazy the amount of work this stuff entails.
Yeah, and definitely one of the greatest things that I saw is that Leica, who did Kubo and Coraline and Paranorman, all those movies that you know, they 3D print all of their sculptures and characters that they do in stop motion. And then I saw in a video that for Isle of Dogs, they actually like handmade every single one of those sculptures and character faces and sets and everything. They didn't use a 3D printer whatsoever. It's kind of crazy.
I am not surprised. Everything in this film is so detailed and just beautiful to look at, and hauntingly beautiful, really. Just fantastic art direction all around. Miles, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the some of the influences in the cinematography and the art direction and whatnot.
Yeah, well, when Wes Anderson first had the idea of doing something, there's actually, I think, 2 different ideas that he ended up combining. He's like, he knew he wanted to do something with dogs, and he also knew he wanted to do something that like paid tribute to Japanese cinema, especially Kurosawa, because for like all the filmmakers that like we may look up to, you know, like Scorsese or Spielberg or whoever, it's like to all of them, Kurosawa is the master, and it's where every filmmaker goes almost to figure out how to do something. Like with J.J. Abrams, like he was quoted saying he went and watched High and Low, which is a Kurosawa film, before he started working on Force Awakens to kind of get ideas of how he wanted to shoot it. And Wes Anderson takes this tribute to a whole nother level. If you've ever seen Kurosawa or Leone, who is another person who just basically directly copied Kurosawa, is like there are shots in this movie that are directly lifted from films like Rashomon and Seven Samurai and those kinds of films. And the whole thing is just like a big love letter to Japanese cinema. And as a film buff, that's just like amazing to watch because I just get so much out of that. And with that said, because you're stealing from the best or paying tribute to the best, it's like, for me, this is like one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen. And like, I'm talking about Samsara, The Conformist, like all the movies that like are known for their cinematography. Like, I feel like this stands up shoulder to shoulder with those, because it's not since Mad Max Fury Road where I felt like I could watch a movie, pause it anytime, pick the frame that I pause it on, and then frame it on a wall and just have like a beautiful image to look at. And it's like every single frame of this movie is just perfect.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and I mean, that goes a lot with all of those beautifully hand-carved sculptures. It's crazy. And I mean, just with the cinematography, every single scene adds to the story, whether it's like a kind of like a montage-ish scene where they're not really saying anything, or just every other scene. It's just, there's not a wasted second in this movie. And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah. One of the things I found to be really interesting about this, and it's not really related to the cinematography, but it's kind of a foreign film in a way. I mean, the dogs speak in English pretty much exclusively, and all of the people, most of the people speak in Japanese with a few characters who speak English and translate, but there are no subtitles for people's dialogue. So you are kind of in the perspective of the dogs, where they can't quite understand what the people are saying, who are interacting with them, because they're speaking Japanese. And unless you're a Japanese speaker, I guess, you probably don't know what they're saying either. It's really interesting how they dealt with that.
Was it actually Japanese? I was kind of an impression it was like a...
Oh, was it like a double talk?
Kind of like in the cartoons kind of thing. Like I wasn't sure.
You know, I can't say for sure because I wouldn't know.
From the very little Japanese that I know, I think it was
What?
Japanese. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the words seemed a little far-fetched, like fetcha.
Yeah.
Is that the Japanese word for fetch? I'm not sure.
It may have just been the way they were saying it. I don't know.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's definitely like, if people are familiar with Wes Anderson works, it's the kind of that deadpan, like emotionless delivery of the lines.
Yeah. I know Miles is not as big on that. I love it. Are you not?
No, I'm all for it.
Okay, I thought
Especially
you-
in this context. Yeah, no, I'm all for it.
Okay, I thought you had said something about it being like too lifeless in this film or
Well,
something.
I guess if there's one critique I would say is like there's nothing like super
Human?
emotional for me to grab on, like the heart of, like there's definitely a heart in this film, but it
Right.
feels more manufactured. And
No,
I was
kind of
gonna
agree with you. on
I was gonna the word I think I used to describe earlier was like clinical, because like just everything's technically is just so perfect, as that it's kind of some of the heart or the natural feeling that you might get from certain stories is kind of lost a little bit, like the human aspect a little bit, because Wes Anderson isn't one to really get too emotional. Like he'll play with like big emotional things in a lot of his movies, but he delivers it in such a way where you're still kind of detached from it. And I kind of compared, just to put this in perspective, I would also say Christopher Nolan is someone who's like a very clinical filmmaker. Like if you watch Inception or The Prestige, like is there really anything emotional for you to grab onto? I mean, they're so perfectly crafted on a technical level, but it's not gonna rip your heart out the way that Spielberg might do in one of his films, or may not put you in the thick of things like Scorsese might do. So, I mean, it's such a nitpick, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this movie, but I just, it's like, it's not perfect, so I gotta say why it's.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Shane, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's my one con I take away from this movie is, with pretty much all the modern animated movies that come out with between Disney competing against themselves with Pixar, there's so much like heart added to it that I just felt like it was kind of hollow in that sense. There wasn't the heart, just repeating what Miles said. I was kind of, the best of the best movies kind of get me, I don't know, teary-eyed or choked up at something, and I didn't really ever have a moment like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think a few of the character moments just kind of are a hair too overconfident, maybe, but just a hair. There were like 3 women sitting in front of me in this theater who were like bawling,
Really?
and like laughing, and just, oh my god, they had the best time of their lives this morning in that theater.
Well, see,
it's so funny.
The thing that a lot of people might not get with Isle of Dogs or Wes Anderson's humor is like, it's not, for me anyways, like it's never like, like knee slapping, gut busting humor. It's more
Right.
just like constantly amusing. And, where you get some little chuckles in here and there, and you just kind of have a big stupid smile on your face, but you're never just like bursting out laughing.
Yeah, my theater was very receptive to the humor. It was kind of cool.
Interesting.
I didn't laugh out loud a lot, but there are definitely some hilarious moments in this film.
Yeah, and that goes a lot with the dialogue. It's just so absorbing. You could kind of like a Tarantino movie, which I love him a lot. It's just, you kind of sit there and just could listen to whoever is talk for as long as they want to talk. I never wanted them to stop, really.
Okay, so is this film accessible to mainstream audiences, do you think? Is there someone who won't enjoy this or shouldn't go see it?
I guess just any of those typical blockbuster people that
If
are
you
like,
don't like indie films?
I'm not going to go see some animated movie. Those are for kids.
It's
So-
not even done in a computer.
Yeah, I know there's a subset of American audiences who really don't like films where people don't speak English a lot of the time. Like, either they say they don't like subtitles, but in this case, you don't really have that excuse because a lot of it's kind of translated in real time by translator characters. But still, maybe it's a little bit inaccessible for them. I mean, it's definitely got that dry humor, but if you loved Up and Doug, the character Doug from Up, I mean, this is like an entire movie almost of Doug. I mean, slightly toned down as far as his spunkiness, because it's a much darker film than Up, I would say. Maybe not much darker, but it's definitely got some grit and grime on it.
I think if you're a dog lover
Oh yeah,
and you've never seen a Wes Anderson film before, this is the one to see.
definitely try it out.
But if it's kind of like, if you've been around this long and still haven't seen a Wes Anderson film, like this being his 9th, then yeah, it's probably not for you. Like, you would have, if it was for you, you would have stumbled across it already.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but even if you haven't, I'd say let this movie be your gateway drug in a sense. And if you enjoy this movie, you should go definitely discover and enjoy his other movies.
Yeah, and it's not like you can just, go to the closest movie theater to your house and see it. It's been a very limited release. I think it's here in Portland. It's only playing in 2 theaters right now.
That's right. I forgot to mention that. So definitely check your local theaters to make sure it's playing near you. But if it is, I would recommend going and seeing it. What would we rate it, guys? Miles?
So Isle of Dogs is getting the highest rating of the year so far for me at an 8.5.
Shane?
Yeah, this one has been a hard one for me because I just really couldn't pick out any cons of the movie other than what I said, and pretty much thoroughly enjoyed it all the way through. So I kind of want to go to that A score, the 9 out of 10.
And I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 as well. So
We're back to
keeping in
me.
line with our pattern
We're back to me being 0.5 after.
where Miles just undercuts us by half a point.
Yeah. Last week with Pacific Rim was the complete anomaly.
Yeah.
I don't know what
yeah.
happened there.
All right. Shall we move on to Ready Player One? Let's
Yeah.
move on to Ready Player One. Ready Player One, the new film directed by Steven Spielberg, starring a young man named Ty Sheridan, a young lady named Olivia Cook, and we'll throw Ben Mendelsohn's name in there. Plays the antagonist character. Based on the best-selling novel? I'm sure it's best-selling. I remember my roommate, actually my dorm neighbor at U of O, was reading this like 5 years ago. I was like, "What is that book?" And he really loved it.
And you never read it.
I never did. I kind of regret it. Shane, you want to give us a little synopsis about what the story's about?
All right, everybody. Picture it. The year is 2045, where overpopulation and pollution has pretty much destroyed the Earth. But James Holliday, who's played by Mark Rylance in this movie, creates a virtual reality world where you could pretty much be anybody, go anywhere, do anything you want. So everybody, of course, is addicted to this, and there's probably nobody in their world that doesn't play this game. But anyways, before James Holliday dies, he hides this Easter egg inside of the game and says whoever could find this Easter egg takes control of the entire Oasis, which is their virtual reality world. So it's pretty much just a mad hunt to find this Easter egg, and there's kind of a dry spell of where nobody knew anything or couldn't find anything for 5 years, I think they said. And then all of a sudden our main character, Ty Sheridan, says, nope, I found the first key. This is something that I could figure out. So that's pretty much where the movie takes off.
All right. Thank you for that synopsis, Shane. What are our initial thoughts on Ready Player One? Miles?
So I'll give you a little bit of background.
Let's talk about whether or not you guys have read the book and whatnot. And all that stuff. You're gonna talk about.
I have read the book, and I absolutely love the book. And when I heard they're making a movie, I was like, first off, that's awesome. Second off, that's impossible. and both of those are true. I really enjoyed this movie, even though it's not even remotely close to the book. There are entire like big sequences in the book that are completely changed. However, it's very obvious to me why they made those changes. Ernest Cline, the author of the book, was very involved in the writing process for the film. So I'm okay. I've seen some responses from friends of mine. I think they didn't. I knew going in that this wouldn't be a perfect adaptation. Like, it would stray a lot. I don't think some of my friends knew that, and they ended up hating it. But if I was just to judge it, and it's kind of weird with book adaptations that you're familiar with, because it's impossible to take out the context that you know from the book. But I'm trying to remove that when I, when I look at this movie. But for me, this is, for the most part, a return to form for Spielberg. There's sequences in this film that I found absolutely thrilling, and it was just, for me, an all-around fun time.
Yeah, so Ready Player One, I couldn't rave about enough, the book that is. I've read that book 3 times now, and I've listened to the audiobook once, and I consider it my favorite book. I enjoy it just as much as I did the previous time I've read the book. So with that being said, I had high hopes in the movie, even though I knew because of rights issues and it being a book that it was impossible to make. The second I saw that first trailer, I knew that I was going to have to very, very drastically detach myself from the book, because it wasn't going to be anything like it. Nothing from that first trailer was in the book really at all. So I've spent the last few months detaching myself from my favorite book, preparing myself for this movie, which is directed by Steven Spielberg. And if there's one director that could do it, I guess it would be him. So yeah, I went into the movie with low expectations because, it's my favorite book. and I actually ended up enjoying it. I think Steven Spielberg has kind of returned as the master of the adventure film. This is kind of like a fun adventure story. The CGI, which a good chunk, I mean, more than half the movie takes place in, is all like pretty much like 100% CGI. And I was worried about that. I thought that would get terrible. But it was actually done in a pretty good way. So, and all the changes that it had from the book, I thought were changes for the better, as in a cinematic sense. It would have been kind of boring to see some of the scenes in the book on the big screen. So I think those changes for the better. But yeah, I mean, after I detached myself from the book 100%, I enjoyed the movie.
Right on. I did not read this book, so I had no idea what it was about, really. I figured it had to do with gaming, which I'm not a gamer. Are you guys gamers?
Yeah.
I'm a very casual gamer. I'll play like
Very
the big like Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim type releases. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for video games. I don't know what it is. Something's wrong with me. Yeah, I saw the trailers for this and I thought, I'm not gonna like this movie, and it just looked like a big vomit of like nostalgia, and I'm not a big fan of remakes and stuff. And there's DeLoreans in this and stuff like that, and I was like, this is not going to be good. And you know what? I actually really dug this movie. I'm lukewarm on it. I don't fully understand everything that's going on, but I went and saw this with a friend who is not easily impressed by films, and he, like, the whole time in the theater, like for the first half of the movie, maybe we'll say like the first third, he was just like going, "Oh my god, that's awesome!" Like even in the first opening scene where it just kind of introduces the world in such a cool way, and just a really it has a lot of economy of shots and whatnot that communicate this young man's plight very, very well.
And your friend, was he not he didn't have any knowledge of the books?
No knowledge of the books or anything like that. Not a gamer either. But I mean, some of the action scenes in this are just so thrilling and unlike anything we've seen before, I would say. And it's a really great ride of a film. So yeah, that's my initial thought. Yeah, we talked about the CGI. Let's see. So you guys think there's too much nostalgia in this movie, or is it just a celebration of geek culture? Because it's generating a lot of criticism online. Some people think it's just too much stuff that's thrown in here.
Yeah. Well, the same exact criticism was made of the book, that it's just like shameless nostalgia pandering. However, I see it very differently. I see it as basically a love letter to geek culture, especially the book. It was a love letter to like 80s geek culture, because that's what the author, Ernest Cline, grew up with as a kid. And so for me, everything is just completely genuine about it, and it's just fun. It's really fun, like picking out all the Easter eggs and kind of, just the nostalgia aspects where you kind of you remember things that you kind of forgot about, and I just think all that's really great.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got from all the trailers, is that it was just going to be nonstop nostalgia porn, and it wasn't quite that. I mean, there were Easter eggs in the movie just to be there, but for the most part, everything kind of served the story, and it wasn't just there to be there like it could have been.
Yeah, I agree. I was pleasantly surprised by the use of pre-existing worlds, I should say, or brands, I guess. I thought it was done quite tastefully in general. Although toward the end, I mean, they just threw a lot of stuff out there at once, and I was kind of overwhelmed. I was like, I don't really know why I need to see all this, but that's just me. And I know you guys wanted to talk about some of the differences between the book and the movie. Like, are there things that really stick out? Because as you said, they're quite different. What are some of those things people should know about?
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't say this before, we're about to go into some spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, you might want to turn it off when we say it's that time.
So you guys want to go into spoilers? for that?
Probably not yet.
Okay, we're gonna do more of that in our spoiler discussion.
There's, without being there's definitely some things inside of the book that add character development or move the story along or add motivation to certain people that wasn't in this book. A lot of certain things kind of just relied on some coincidences, or I hope you read the book because this is happening now. And so I definitely missed those scenes from the book, but they do a good job of catching you up or getting you inside of this world without reading the book.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was too lost when I saw it, although, like I said, I had some things I didn't understand about the world, but the story made sense, and I had more problems with the story in general than anything that was in the world. But why don't we kind of give our closing thoughts, recommend who should see it, and give our ratings. Miles?
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to add kind of like one of the detractions I had from the film was I thought they could have done more for the world building, because like it opens up and it's just kind of like just all this exposition via voiceover and shots to go along with it, and the Gunters and the clans, like they're just kind of glossed over, and there's so much more detail obviously in the book that really paints the picture and like makes it this fully realized world that I think gets lost a little bit in the film. And so someone who hasn't read the book, like yourself, I can see someone being like, okay, there's this thing that they told me there was, but does it really matter? I don't know. They didn't really expand past that. Like, why is it so important that the Oasis is saved? Like, they kind of talk about passing in the film, but they don't really dwell into it. So maybe you're not as invested. I'm kind of saying that as like, I'm not sure. I'm just kind of speculating because it's so hard to put aside my knowledge of the book. But I would kind of speculate that some people might be underwhelmed by a lot of the world building. With that said, this movie was kind of an impossible task, I think. And the fact that it worked as well as it did is quite an achievement. And if I was to give it a rating, I'd say actually 7.5. I think would be a fitting rating.
Shane?
Yeah, so for this franchise being my favorite book, I found myself missing a lot of things, but actually enjoying a lot. This movie's kind of like the skeleton of the book, and it's just kind of missing all of the meat in between that I kind of wanted. But for somebody who's read the book, I think you'll enjoy the movie because you're seeing some of the stuff that you read on the big screen, and that's cool. But also for somebody that hasn't read the book, if you enjoyed this movie, if you had an overall positive experience, you should definitely go read the book, because I think you'll enjoy both. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of a nice return to the blockbuster adventure film for Steven Spielberg, and I think for the most part, anybody that goes into this movie, especially people that dedicate more than 10 hours of gaming to their week, will enjoy this movie.
And what would you rate it?
I'd say a 7 out of 10.
I, too, am rating it a 7 out of 10. What? So, Miles, you've got a half a point above us. What? The pattern is all thrown off now.
You've destroyed the cycle.
What I'm doing is bringing balance to the Force.
Oh, okay.
You're going to make that joke in the movie that has no Star Wars at all?
There was.
They mentioned the Millennium Falcon.
They name-dropped the Millennium Falcon.
All right, so if you're looking for a movie with Star Wars stuff, look further. The opposite of look no further.
Maybe watch Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess just watch one of the Just wait 6 months. There'll be one out or some shit. I don't know.
Less than that.
Yeah, even oh god.
Yeah, dude, we have like less than a month. Or no,
I am not looking forward to Solo. Let me tell you,
month,
looking forward to Solo. All right,
come on,
blasphemy.
Come on.
I know. Very unpopular things I'm saying. Let's go into spoilers. If you have not seen Ready Player One and you would not like it to be spoiled, stop listening right now. Go see it. Also, Spoilers for the book follow as well, so go read that book. It's fantastic from what I hear. I don't know, I haven't read it, but it gets rave reviews from these guys. So, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Spoilers ensue now.
Alert.
Let's talk a little bit about the three challenges that these characters go through in this film, and kind of how they differ from the book. I know you guys really wanted to talk about that. So this whole car race scene, Shane, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so if you've read the book or if you've seen the movie, which we're hoping because this is spoiler territory.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
Yeah, you could just leave now. This is like your fifth saying of that. The keys that they collect to unlock the Easter egg, sort of, they're all pretty much different from the book. The first key I totally 100% agree with, that in the book they kind of played the game of Joust, and that was it. Ty Sheridan's character Parzival finds himself on his learning planet of Ludus, where pretty much as everybody goes to be educated, because nobody wants to go to school in the real world, apparently.
Yeah, I was really confused about how this kid never goes to school.
Yeah. So he's poor as can be, which I don't know if they quite portrayed that well enough in the movie. But he can't go anywhere in the world. Like, a place where you could be anybody and go anywhere, he's stuck on this education planet. And the only reason why he could play the game is because the school is funding him to play the game. They even give him like the visor and the hands or the whatever those things are, the things on their hands that they use to touch stuff. But he just happens to like stumble upon this dungeon that has the key, and then he just plays a game of Joust against some Grim Reaper like guy. I don't even know what the heck they call him. So obviously the giant race full of Easter eggs is a little bit different than that, which I totally loved. I'd rather not see somebody play Joust for 20 minutes and enjoy that nice race of the Jurassic Park T-Rex and King Kong and all of that crazy stuff that was super cool, and the long shots of, I don't know, it's just all kind of like CGI madness, but I was like smiling all the way through it. So it's a little different there. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about the race there? The first key.
Well, as a fan of the book, I loved the race, because it's just so visual, and like you said, there's just so much going on. It's just shot brilliantly, like the camera swooping around and like these unbroken shots and just organized mayhem. You know, with the T-Rex, and then look, there's a Batmobile, and
the 60s Batmobile, I forgot about that.
Right.
That was so cool, actually.
I mean,
I love 60s Batman.
seeing that in the same shot with the DeLorean, and then you've got the Kara bike, and just like, that's just like dropping all these things. That's kind of the point. It's just like an ode to geek culture, and it was just a very fun way, I think, to incorporate that, because I spent hours and hours on Grand Theft Auto just racing and playing Need for Speed and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is great.
And I mean, where else are you going to see King Kong, a T-Rex, the Batmobile, a Kira bike, and the DeLorean within 5 minutes? It's crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in these sequences.
And then, how did you
very
feel
thick.
about solving the riddle to the race?
Yeah, so the riddles, if you know anything of the book, is not quite how it goes, because in between each of the keys they have gates that they go in, which the key unlocks a gate and the gate kind of unlocks the next key, sort of. It gives them a riddle to find the next key. So they obviously didn't have any of the gates inside of the movie, so they had to come up with a way of just making the riddle connect the next key, which I don't think they quite told very well, mostly because they didn't really explain why Parzival and Artemis know what they know and why they're so good at finding these clues and reasons, or where the keys are. because obviously nobody's found any of these things for 5 years. The Easter egg hunt's been on for 5 years and nobody's found a single thing. And then Artemis and Parzival just walk in and instantly find it and
What
win
are
the
some of
race.
those reasons? I'm kind of curious.
Well, that a lot of it goes back to Parzival being so poor in the stacks. There is he pretty much doesn't have any money to do anything, and then everywhere surrounding him, the bottom of the stacks, the outside cities, everything are so dangerous to walk in. Like he could die if he walks to school. That's why he doesn't go to real school. He goes to the Ludus school. So he pretty much just dedicates his entire life to this Easter egg hunt, doing nothing but watching movie after movie, TV show after TV show, everything about Dungeons and Dragons, any 80s thing that you could possibly think of. He's read it, done it, seen it, played it, and that's why he sees these certain key words and these clues and is able to find it in the book. But I don't feel like they quite portrayed him as smart as he is in the book to be able to find these things. I don't know. Maybe did you feel that way, Preston?
I was really confused as to how no one had ever found this thing. No one like went in reverse, even like by accident, on this racetrack. Like, seems like someone would have done that in 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of the downfall of the change there in the in the story. Pretty much the only reason why Parzival found this key in the book on the first movies, or in the first key of the book is he was stuck on the school because the school planet was the only place that he could possibly go.
Right.
And then he's like, oh, what's this random dungeon here? This looks weird. And he goes, explores it and finds it. And that's where he kind of meets up with Artemis at the first.
Well, I think in the context of the film, and this was kind of there in the book, like if you get killed in the Oasis, then like you lose all your experience and you're back down to level 0. And so like creating this race where like most people die who do it, like when you die you lose all those years of leveling and
all your items, all your
money. And so it's not just like everybody's just like on repeat like doing this race, because it's like
But there
they're risking.
are people like that. The Sixers, isn't that the whole thing? Like,
Well, yeah, but that's like the corporation that's
right. So it
backed,
just seems
like
a
odd to me that they would never have
multi-million-
thought to do that.
Yeah. I mean, they have
don't know.
infinite money for the most part, and they could just do it over and over and over and over again. But
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was
I
really
mean-
confused as to why they hadn't figured it out.
yeah, I mean, if you spent 10 years leveling up this character in this game, and there was a race that could instantly take away all of that, I don't know if many people that would take that choice there,
All right.
especially if it's never been completed before. That's where I
That's
was
true.
kinda
We do
getting
see a
at
guy try to jump out of a window after he dies in a game, so
that. Yeah.
which is actually pretty funny. Okay, do we want to talk more about these challenges?
Yeah.
Second challenge. We
The-
can't not talk about the Shining scene.
Yeah, the third key is pretty much the same, so I'll just get that out of the way.
Okay,
in
yeah,
the
go
first
for the
place.
third one.
They just go for that joust thing. The challenge in the book is actually getting to the game to be able to play it.
Here you do get to see someone play a cabinet for 20 minutes.
Yeah. But the second key, they kind of take the idea of all the gates where they go inside of a movie, and they pretty much have to like line for line repeat the dialogue inside of these famous 80s movies to move on. So they kind of take that where they're going inside of The Shining this time, and it looks like they actually took footage from the movie and like CGI'd themselves in front of certain things and stuff like that, and it was like a really, really cool surprise to me. I don't know, Miles, if
This is by far my favorite sequence in the film, because it was just, I had no idea it was coming. It's not in the book. and I've seen The Shining a number of times. So it was just like the coolest surprise that I could ask for in a movie like this. And I just thought the whole sequence is just a lot of fun, really creative and thrilling. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, you're totally right. I thought that definitely was the highlight of the movie for me. When they went into The Shining, I was just like, thank God I've seen The Shining.
Well,
If I hadn't seen The Shining, I would have been.
they kind of call
kinda
that
pissed.
out with in like the book, like H's character is just is almost as nearly as
Equally on par with him. Yeah.
like knowledgeable as Artemis, but they kind of play up that joke, and I almost kind of interpret it like the fact that H hasn't seen The Shining is kind of like a jab at like some of the younger audience members who may have no idea what this is referencing. So it's like, oh, it's kind of getting them to like forcing people to go back and watch The Shining.
And he's getting surprised by all of those scenes that surprised us the first time we saw The Shining.
And do you guys know what Spielberg's connection to The Shining is?
I feel like I do, but I don't remember.
So actually, there's some really weird like connections, because in the book, one of the sequences that he has to act out, like line for line dialogue, is from Blade Runner, and Ridley Scott famously borrowed unused footage from The Shining to make the ending of Blade Runner.
Oh, that awesome ending there.
That they ended up cutting out later.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny that those two movies are, end up being kind of linked within this Ready Player One, the book and the film. But Spielberg was getting ready to film, or he was in the process of filming Indiana Jones, and he was slated to use like the same soundstage that Kubrick was using for The Shining, but Kubrick, being Kubrick, was like behind schedule, and so Spielberg had to delay the production of Raiders of the Lost Ark for The Shining to finish filming. And so I think there's even like a photo of like Spielberg hanging out on set of The Shining. So I think that's kind of in part like where all that kind of came from, because he's got a personal connection to The Shining, and obviously he, like every other filmmaker, worships Kubrick. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
And I guess just moving on, we should probably talk about that final battle scene in the movie. What you guys thought about it? Was it just like a CGI blur, or did you take things from it, enjoy it?
It was more of a blur to me. I don't know. I mean, there were a couple cool moments. I'm not a big third act fan. I like the first two acts best generally. I really like the first act of this movie, and then it was all right.
I thought it was a really fun sequence. I would say, like in the book, obviously it's a much bigger sequence, because like you kind of see the perspective from outside of the planet.
They have millions of people there.
There's like millions of people show up, and like not everybody's fighting. Like there's tons of people that just show up to watch, and it's just, and so like the scope of it's just so much bigger in the book. But the movie, I think, did a cool, introduced in a cool way, kind of all the people charging up behind him, and there were a lot of like clever. There's kind of a joke that they used kind of over and over in that final battle, is like where they introduced, something like my favorite, I guess you call it Easter egg or thing they did, was when they had Chucky just kind of come out of nowhere, and he just went crazy.
Yeah,
and,
fucking Chucky.
and then like it goes to the Sixer base or whatever, and you just see all their circles go red, just like
Yeah, that was super cool. That whole visual of the like in the IOI, place, seeing all the red and white little rigs.
Yeah, I enjoyed the final battle quite a bit, even though it's way, way different than the book. But the biggest one, I told Miles before we came in, I was like, there's no way they got Mechagodzilla in this movie. Like, Toho is so stingy with their rights. But I guess they ended up getting Mechagodzilla in there, but not quite. Apparently, you could call something Mechagodzilla, but not make him look like it at all, really. So that was cool to see that, because I don't know what else they would have chosen for Sorrento to be like the final boss to this, other than Mechagodzilla. But yeah, to see like the Gundam pop up at the end, and just a bunch of like random video game characters and movie references throughout. Like, you're probably gonna have to see that movie like 3 or 4 times to catch all the Easter eggs, but it was fun.
The Halo Spartans were an obvious one, but that was fun to see, because
see them on the big screen
hours,
for once.
hours and hours and hours playing Halo.
Yeah.
Oh, did you guys catch the Fallout reference? The railgun.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was just so fleeting, but like I was like, because I had just played was it Fallout 4?
Yeah.
Like just months ago, and I remember using that railgun to mess some people up. And so when they did that, and it just like went through like 4 people, I was like, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I have some gripes with this cast. All right.
Ah, pooey.
Ben Mendelsohn, I don't know, man. I just don't like this guy. I mean, I'm sure he's a fantastic person and a very talented actor. I just don't enjoy any of his roles except Darkest Hour. I liked him in that, but didn't like him in Dark Knight Rises. Didn't like him in that Star Wars one, Rogue One. Didn't like him in this. I don't know. What defend Ben Mendelsohn, Miles? For those who don't know, Ben Mendelsohn is the antagonist
I
of this
wasn't
movie.
expecting to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never had a problem with him. He's always kind of been one of those actors that you recognize, but you don't necessarily know who he is, and he just kind of shows up in things. But I think he just has a really good screen presence, and he's charismatic, even if he's not playing like a likable character. He's kind of typecast as a villain a lot of times. But for me, he's always a welcome sight on screen.
Interesting. I don't feel the same way. I can't describe it, but it's not a Mendel fan.
Yeah, and without me saying you're wrong, for those of us that have read the book, I think he perfectly captures the Sorrento character. He's kind of, I don't know, slimy and kind of awkward, and I don't know, just every single thing about him perfectly captured Sorrento from the book into the movie. Even though they didn't really develop his character very well in the movie, you kind of got that.
Yeah, I didn't care for his character. I think it might have just been more writing too, because I don't know if you guys have ever met a CEO. Have you guys met CEOs? Shane, you probably have, right?
Oh yeah.
At our work.
Oh, that guy that we're not going to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, like our CEO for our company is like, well, usually or used to be, walking around our place all the time and like saying hi to people, and CEOs were like the most polite, like people with great people skills, and I was just like, this is like the worst CEO I've ever seen. Like, he's such a dick. I don't know.
There's kind of a difference there, because the Oasis is kind of like the steering wheel to life, really, and Holiday's like, whoever owns the steering wheel pretty much owns everything, really.
Basically,
Sounds like a bad design.
Holiday is Steve Jobs, and then
he's much better than Steve Jobs. I loved
Mendelsohn is everything that happened to Apple after Jobs left.
And I mean,
Steve Jobs was a huge dick, though.
And if all you had to do was win this
Zuckerberg
Easter egg
is a
game
huge
to
dick.
take over the world, I kind of feel like Ben Mendelsohn would try anything or do anything to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I'm not giving the movie a fair chance, really, by criticizing the portrayal of corporate America. But okay, Ben Mendelsohn, whatever. I did not care for the main 3 characters at all, particularly. I mean, they acted fine, but I don't know, just didn't care for them.
They weren't anything extraordinary, kind of bland.
I felt they were very bland. And then T.J. Miller was like the highlight of this movie for me. I know Miles did not feel the same way.
Boo.
I found him a little distracting.
This is the guy with the skull in his chest.
Yeah.
I thought he was hilarious. Like, every time he wasn't on screen, I was just like, when's that guy gonna come back? Like, that's how I felt. That's the opposite of how I felt with the Flash in Dark. What's that? What's that movie I'm thinking of?
Justice League?
Yeah, Justice League. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh God!
I hated the Flash in that movie.
Don't remind me of
No.
the Justice
And
League.
T.J. Miller was like what I thought the Flash should have been. Just like actually charming and funny.
I didn't like him at all.
Okay.
I mean, they took the most annoying character from the book and made him kind of like a secondary antagonist, and where he was just in the book just enough for, I don't know, for to not take from the book at all. And I'm just like, I don't like this character at all.
For those of us who haven't read the book,
Yeah.
I gotta say T.J. Miller was
I
fantastic.
guess he was fine. He kind of took on the role of like the typical nerd where he's just talking about random stuff while Ben Mendelsohn is trying to be like talking serious, get to the point things. I don't know.
Yeah. Another reason I didn't like Ben Mendelsohn. And then Simon Pegg. You guys like Simon Pegg?
I love
I
Simon
thought he did a
Pegg.
fantastic job. I was just like, that's Simon Pegg? Holy moly. But at the end when he comes in, he's all old.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great role.
So I mean, Olivia Cook, who played Artemis, I think she was kind of the highlight, really. I enjoyed her a lot from Bates Motel. If any of you guys have seen that, she plays a big role in that. But I think she, besides the part where she's not on par with Parzival for the knowledge of the 80s, I think she played the character of Artemis really well.
Yeah, I guess might have been more of my problems with the script, I suppose, because I mean, like, really? I don't know. Like the whole love thing, it seems so weird to me. Like he barely knows this girl, and then he says I love you, and then like nothing changes. Like she's like,
I've
no,
never
you
done
don't.
that in my life.
And then yeah, I'm not saying it's uncommon. I'm saying it's dumb. So
Yeah.
like, and then she's like, no, leave me alone. You don't love me. And then nothing changes, but then they like love each other. I was just like, what the hell just happened? I did not understand how that was like good storytelling at all. And
Yeah,
just-
that's something where you wouldn't get that connection unless you read the book, because they don't even see each other until the very, very like last 3 pages of the book. They don't ever see each other in person. So it's kind of like a whole lead up of, are they going to get together at the end of this movie or what? And there's a lot more kind of back and forth between them that really, really thoroughly explains why they liked each other. But yeah, the movie didn't do that very well.
Okay. Yes, I give no kudos on that front movie. And then does she have the birthmark on her face in
Yeah.
the book?
That's part of the reason she's like, you're never going to like me in real life because I'm deformed,
I
even
thought that
though
was so,
all she
like,
had was that little
It's
birthmark.
2045 and we haven't gotten over like people with minor birthmarks on their face.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I was just like, this is so dumb. I don't know. It did not work on me at all. Everything like after you meet the people in real life who he's been playing with, I was just like, I don't care for these people very much. I mean, the two Asian guys were pretty good.
Well, I thought they were just kind of like randomly dropped in. They're like they're
Yeah,
not
exactly.
there, and then suddenly they're there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I can't hear me.
we could hear you.
Okay, it's just maybe my headphones aren't great. But like in the book, there's kind of a lot more built up because I think they kind of once the location of the key is discovered in the book, then they're able to get it on their own. Like they're the next ones after Artemis and H, I think.
They're
So they're not like friends. They just kind of show up later.
no, they're
Yeah.
actually in Japan. Really, I think pretty sure they're
yeah,
in Japan.
yeah, they're
Yeah, I was really
and-
confused by how everybody is really close to each other in real
yeah,
life
that
miraculously.
that was definitely something that the movie
Yeah.
did.
Artemis wasn't anywhere near Parzival in the book.
All right. It sounds like I'm going to like this book a lot better than this movie. So that's kind of too bad, but
But then there's the older brother Daito. He ends up dying in the book,
right. I remember
and
you
it's
saying
kind of
that.
one of the things that's like hits them really close to home, and like they understand the stakes more, and you feel the stakes more in the book because you're like, oh crap, this corporation, they're out for blood. Like they're not going to let anything get in their way from acquiring this inheritance of this company.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, and that's the big key thing that is the reason why Sorrento gets like arrested at the end of the book is because he like full on screen killed Daito, which if you read the book, it was a pretty gruesome death. Not like gory, but just like there he goes. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll know what I'm talking about.
All right.
So yeah, they take that Shoto, which is the little kid. He gathers the video evidence there and shows it, and that's how Sorrento gets arrested at the end. I can't really think of a reason why Sorrento got arrested at the end of the movie. He was just like, I mean, other than maybe shooting at him in public, I don't know.
Yeah, brandishing a gun and then shooting people.
Yeah, it seems like that's a
Probably.
pretty normal thing in the book. So that
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, strange. Okay, do we have any other thoughts in the spoiler section before we wrap up here?
I think we kind of picked out all of our, like we mentioned, a lot of the Easter eggs that we liked, and yeah.
All right.
Is that it? Is that it?
And with
guys?
that, Shane,
No,
I'm all
just
Ready
read
Player
the book,
One
okay?
out.
Or listen to the audiobook.
Yeah.
One of those.
We've talked about this for almost an hour, so you've
Wow.
got a lot to work with.
Good luck. Good luck listening to this.
All right, so that is going to be it for In the Picture this week. I've been Preston Fosbeck with,
Shane Awesome Jones or something like that.
and
Miles Cardan.
next week you can catch our review of A Quiet Place, which I would say I'm looking forward to it a little bit.
You are, or you aren't?
I think I am.
It's a quiet place.
I like John Krasinski as a person. So, and I didn't realize he directed it, so I'm excited.
That 100% on Rotten Tomatoes has drawn me in.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm usually not a fan of the horror genre, which is like polar opposite to Shane.
Same here. Same here.
But the trailers really intrigued me, and I think it's a great premise, and I can just imagine in my head, and also the trailers kind of show you some of the instances, but like all the things you can do with that premise of, you know, these demons or creatures that are drawn to sound, and then like all the tension that's created by not having, they're trying not to make any noise. So
Yeah,
think it's
looks
gonna
exciting.
I think it's going to be pretty nifty.
Yeah.
So more on that next week. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can tweet at us at AskInThePicture. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/inthepicture. And we are now on iTunes. You can go to the iTunes store and search In the Picture. And I think you'll be able to find us quite easily. Our logo is a red background with a TV on it.
So if you're listening to this, rate us so people could find us easier.
Yes, please rate us,
And
write us a review,
subscribe.
and subscribe. Yeah, and do we have a YouTube channel in the works?
Nah.
We've got a lot of requests.
Not yet, but maybe.
We got a lot of requests for YouTube. People like to listen to podcasts via YouTube for reasons I don't understand. But hey, we're gonna give you what you want, people.
And please give us a tweet, because I check it every day and then get disappointed when there's nothing.
Oh,
Please.
I thought all this time I thought nobody was checking it.
I have the app on this iPad, and I look at it every single day, and I'm like, nope, we're still not famous.
For just one tweet, you can brighten Shane's day
Yes,
just a little
please.
bit more. Poor Shane over here.
Put
no one
some
tweets at him.
sunshine over my rainy parade.
Please do. All right. Until next week, this has been In the Picture. We'll see you guys. Have a good night.
Bye.